Melissa Brown squinted at the morning sun streaming through the window as she got out of bed. From her high-rise apartment in Atlanta, she could hear the distant bustle of the city. Her life was remarkably well-ordered. With more than 10 years of experience as an accountant, her work was highly regarded by both colleagues and supervisors. She had finally decided to live for herself. "Mother again," Melissa muttered while looking at her smartphone screen. It showed 3 missed calls from Martha at 7 a.m. Must be about Vanessa, she thought. Melissa's sister, Vanessa, looked similar to her but had a completely opposite personality. Vanessa called herself an entrepreneur and was constantly chasing new business ideas, though none of them lasted long. An organic candle shop, handmade jewelry brand, yoga studio, all had failed within months. Yet she would immediately jump to the next idea, declaring, "This is my true calling." Melissa sighed deeply as she made coffee. Their parents, especially their mother Martha, had always spoiled Vanessa excessively. "She's just following her dreams," her mother would often say. "She's talented. She just hasn't found her place yet." But to Melissa, it all looked like simple irresponsibility. Their parents, Martha and Thomas, were both retired high school teachers. Martha was energetic and deeply involved in local volunteer work, while Thomas had a gentle personality and enjoyed gardening and reading. They were wonderful as educators, but as parents, at least for Melissa, they left much to be desired. From an early age, Melissa had been cast in the role of the responsible older sister. During high school, while Vanessa was partying with friends, Melissa studied diligently and earned scholarships. In college, while Vanessa was finding herself on various journeys, Melissa worked part-time jobs to pay for her education. And now as a working adult, while Vanessa jumped from one failing business to another, Melissa was steadily building her career. Enough is enough, Melissa had decided last month. When her parents asked her once again to financially support Vanessa's newest venture, she refused for the first time. "I have my own life too," Melissa told them. "I want to buy my own condo. I'm planning to take out a loan for it." Her parents looked surprised but didn't particularly object. However, last week, Melissa was informed that her loan application had been rejected. "There seems to be an issue with your credit history," the banker said. "You already have significant debt under your name." "That's impossible," Melissa protested. "I shouldn't have any debt. I always pay my credit cards in full." The banker looked confused and said hesitantly, "We have records here." Melissa immediately requested a credit report. That evening, when Melissa visited her parents' home, she sensed something was wrong. Her parents, especially her mother Martha, seemed restless and avoided eye contact. "Mom, do you know something?" Melissa asked. "The bank says I have debt under my name, but I don't remember anything like that." Martha suddenly stood up, looking busy. "Well, banks make mistakes all the time. Would you like some tea?" "Answer my question," Melissa persisted. "Are you hiding something?" Martha lowered her voice. "You shouldn't pry too much into family matters. Sometimes it's better not to know certain things." Melissa felt a chill run down her spine. Something was definitely wrong. Something deep inside was warning her. Tuesday morning, Melissa woke up earlier than usual. The puzzling conversation with her parents last night wouldn't leave her mind. While brewing coffee in the kitchen, she had decided to visit the bank personally to investigate her credit report. She had just put on her suit and neatly arranged her hair when her smartphone began to ring. It was an unknown number. Normally she would ignore it, but considering the recent events, it might be important. Melissa took a deep breath before answering. "This is Joseph Morris from the loan department at First Atlanta Bank," a male voice said in a calm but formal tone. "The security deposit for the Brown Family Cafe business loan is in default. You're Melissa Brown, the guarantor, correct?" Melissa caught her breath. Excuse me. Brown Family Cafe. I know nothing about such a business. And me being a guarantor. According to our records, you are the main guarantor for an $85,000 business loan under Vanessa Brown's name. The banker's voice started showing slight confusion. Melissa collapsed into a kitchen chair. Her mind couldn't process this. My sister's name is indeed Vanessa Brown, but I have no recollection of becoming a guarantor for her business. There must be some mistake. Ms. Brown, your signature and social security number are on the documents. The loan was approved last October. This is fraud. Melissa's voice trembled. I never signed such documents. That's troubling, the banker replied, choosing his words carefully. In any case, payments for the past 3 months are overdue. As the guarantor, you are obligated to make the payments. I'll send you the details by email. Please contact us if you have any questions. After the call ended, Melissa couldn't move for a while. Various thoughts swirled in her mind. Did her sister use her name to borrow money? Did her parents know? Is that why they reacted that way yesterday? After calling her company to take a day off, Melissa headed to her parents' house. While driving, a mixture of anger and anxiety welled up inside her. Thinking about all the sacrifices she had made for her family over the years, she almost burst into tears. Why is this happening to me? She gripped the steering wheel tightly. Upon arriving at her parents' house, she noticed Vanessa's colorful bohemian-style compact car in the parking lot. Melissa took a deep breath to calm her emotions and opened the front door. She could hear laughter coming from the living room. Entering the living room, she saw Vanessa sitting on the sofa, laughing at something on her latest smartphone. On the table in front of her was a coffee in a stylish cup. Her parents were nowhere to be seen. Vanessa, Melissa called out, trying to maintain her composure. Her sister looked up, showing a momentary surprise before quickly returning to her usual bright smile. Melissa. What brings you here at this hour? What about work? Melissa sat in the chair opposite Vanessa, choosing her words carefully. What is the Brown Family Cafe? I got a call from the bank this morning. Vanessa froze for a moment and put down her smartphone. A brief flash of anxiety crossed her eyes, but she quickly returned to a relaxed expression. Oh, that's my new business. I opened a lovely cafe. It's on the east side. Haven't you been there yet? More importantly, why am I listed as a guarantor? I don't remember agreeing to that, Melissa continued, controlling her emotions. Vanessa slowly sipped her coffee and smiled with an eerily calm demeanor. What? You didn't know? You're my guarantor. I have all the paperwork. Melissa was speechless. In that moment, it became clear that her sister had betrayed her. This is criminal. Did you forge my signature? Why are you making such a fuss? Martha entered from the kitchen. Her voice carried a tone of accusation. Family should support each other. Vanessa has finally found her path. Do you want to destroy your sister's dream? Melissa understood instantly. Her parents were accomplices. I'm not against supporting Vanessa. But making such a significant decision as becoming a guarantor without even consulting me, this is fraud. You're being dramatic. Thomas joined the conversation. He was holding several papers in his hand. The documents have your signature. It's all legal. Let me see. Melissa reached out. Her father reluctantly handed over the documents. Melissa flipped through the pages and indeed found her name on the last page. However, upon closer inspection, it was clearly forged. Her signature had distinctive characteristics, and this was merely an imitation. This is a forgery, Melissa's voice shook. I'll have to take legal action. You can't be serious. Vanessa suddenly stood up and shouted. You're going to sue your own family. Reconsider, Martha pleaded. This is just a family matter. There's no need to involve outsiders. Melissa quietly stood up. Something inside her felt broken. The trust she had in her family, especially the respect she had for her parents, was shattered in an instant. I won't be sacrificed anymore, she said slowly. Looking at the disturbed expressions of the three family members, Melissa headed toward the front door. Wait! Vanessa's voice called from behind. Let's calm down and talk about this. But Melissa didn't look back. She left the house with determination, despite her family's calls. Her heart was wounded, but she also felt a strange sense of liberation. She thought she might finally be free from the sense of family responsibility she had carried for years. After leaving her parents' house, Melissa cried in her car. The mix of lifelong loyalty to her family and the pain of this betrayal was tearing her heart apart. But after a few minutes, she hid her eyes behind sunglasses and took out her smartphone. Instinctively, she knew what she needed to do. The next morning, Melissa stood in front of a law firm recommended by a colleague. The sophisticated Morris & Associates sign gleamed in the morning sun. Inside, she met Jennifer Morris, a middle-aged female attorney. Melissa felt reassured by her sharp eyes and composed demeanor. This is clearly fraud, Jennifer stated after hearing Melissa's situation. Your signature was forged, and your social security number was used without permission. This constitutes identity theft. But, they're my family, Melissa said weakly. Jennifer smiled kindly. Unfortunately, fraud and identity theft by family members are not uncommon, especially when money is involved. First, let's gather information about all accounts and loans created in your name from the bank. Then we'll consider your options. That afternoon, Melissa was meeting with the bank's branch manager. I need details of all accounts and loans opened in my name. I am a victim of fraud, she said with a trembling voice but a resolute attitude. The bank's investigation took several days. During this time, Melissa continued to ignore numerous calls from her parents. Vanessa sent her a message, Melissa, please. Let's talk. This is a misunderstanding. But the information from the bank revealed it was no misunderstanding. Over the past 2 years, Vanessa had taken out multiple loans using Melissa's name. Besides the cafe business loan, there were loans for a luxury car and several credit cards. The total amount exceeded $150,000. This is worse than I imagined, Jennifer said while reviewing the files. These debts are already recorded in your credit history. We need to file a police report immediately and formally report this as fraud. After leaving the lawyer's office, Melissa took out her smartphone with trembling hands. It was time to confront Vanessa directly. She dialed her sister's number. Melissa. You finally called, Vanessa's voice had a hint of relief. Listen, I'm sorry about the other day. I shouldn't have said those things. Vanessa, Melissa tried to maintain her composure. I know everything now. I investigated at the bank. All the loans and credit cards you took out in my name. There was a moment of silence on the other end. Let me explain, Vanessa's voice suddenly became small. I was just, temporarily in trouble. I was planning to repay it all soon. Really? Why didn't you talk to me? Melissa's voice shook with emotion. Even if I couldn't lend you money, I at least wouldn't have let you use my name without permission. Of course you would have refused. Vanessa suddenly raised her voice. You're always so perfect, always looking down on me. I just wanted to make my business successful too. I needed that chance. Still, using someone else's name is a crime, Melissa said firmly. I've consulted with a lawyer. I'm planning to file a police report. What? Vanessa's voice changed. It started with surprise but gradually turned into cold anger. If you talk to the bank, I'll go bankrupt. Is that what you want? To ruin your own sister? I'm not trying to ruin you, Melissa said in a tired voice. Your own actions have ruined you. I won't forgive you, Vanessa said in a low voice. Betraying your family like this. Mom and Dad will have heart attacks when they hear about this. The call suddenly ended. Melissa tried calling back several times, but Vanessa didn't answer. The next day, as Melissa was about to head to the police station, she received an urgent call from her mother. Martha's voice was distraught. Vanessa has disappeared. I haven't been able to reach her since last night. When I looked in her room, all her clothes and important belongings were gone. What happened? Melissa told her about yesterday's conversation with Vanessa. Martha started crying on the other end of the phone. Are you really going to the police? Do you intend to put your sister in jail? Melissa took a deep breath. This is what Vanessa chose for herself. She used my name to borrow a large sum of money. She should face the consequences. But Martha's voice changed. It wasn't the accusatory or manipulative tone from before, but one filled with genuine sadness and regret. We were wrong too. I'm sorry we couldn't protect you. We spoiled Vanessa too much. Melissa was surprised by these words. Her parents had rarely taken her side before. Please. Come to the house, Martha pleaded. Your father, he's remorseful too. We need to find Vanessa. She might be in danger. Melissa postponed her visit to the police and headed to her parents' house. What she saw there was parents who looked completely different from before. Martha's eyes were red and swollen from crying, and Thomas looked old and frail. We were wrong, Thomas said, looking at his daughter. We spoiled Vanessa too much. And to you, we were unfair to you. We searched Vanessa's room last night for any clues, Martha said. We found this. She placed a photo on the table. It showed Vanessa with an unknown man wearing an expensive suit. His name is Raymond Collins, Thomas explained. Apparently Vanessa's business partner. We've never met him before. But his name and phone number were written on the back of the photo. Melissa picked up the photo. Something seems off, she said. There's not just this cafe business loan, but many other loans. Where did all that money go? Does the cafe actually exist? We don't know, Martha shook her head. The address is on the documents, but we've never gone to see it. We need to investigate ourselves before going to the police, Melissa made up her mind. I'm thinking of hiring a private investigator. We need to look into this Raymond Collins and find out if this cafe really exists. Her parents agreed. Thomas offered to use his savings to cover the investigation costs. This is partly our responsibility too. We'll do everything we can to fix what happened to you. A few days later, the investigator Melissa hired reported back. The Brown family cafe did exist but had already closed down. It had gone bankrupt after just 3 months of operation. And shockingly, it was discovered that Raymond Collins had a criminal record. He had previously been convicted of fraud and embezzlement. Further investigation revealed that Vanessa and Raymond had fled together to Nevada using the funds borrowed in Melissa's name. They had been spotted near Las Vegas. She might have been deceived, Martha said. Manipulated by this Raymond character. No, Mom, Melissa said quietly. Vanessa is an accomplice too. She knew what she was doing. But now, she's with a dangerous person. We need to find her. That night, Melissa and her parents gathered at the kitchen table to examine the documents and understand the full extent of Vanessa's debts. The total amount was beyond their imagination. How will we ever repay this? Martha sighed. First, we need to find Vanessa, Melissa was determined. And make her take responsibility. This will be for her own good. Thomas took Melissa's hand. I'm proud of you, Melissa, he said. You're truly a strong person. If only we had realized this sooner. Melissa squeezed her father's hand back. The family bond was deeply wounded, but for the first time, they were standing on the same side, facing the problem together. A month had passed since Vanessa's disappearance. Melissa had filed a police report but, at her family's strong request, refrained from pressing criminal charges. Let's find Vanessa and talk to her first, her lawyer Jennifer also agreed. During this time, the process of repairing Melissa's credit history was steadily progressing, but the loan issues remained unresolved. One Thursday evening, as Melissa returned home after working overtime, she found her parents waiting in front of her apartment. Both of their faces showed evident excitement. We found her, Martha said in a small voice. We know where Vanessa is. Surprised, Melissa invited them into her apartment. How? Her credit card, Thomas explained. The investigator you hired tracked it. Vanessa used her card at a motel in Nevada 3 days ago. A place called Desert Rest Motel, on the outskirts of Las Vegas. Melissa sat down on the sofa. Is she alone? Is she with Raymond? Well. Martha looked worriedly at her husband. According to the investigator, there's no sign of Raymond. Vanessa seems to be acting alone. And according to the motel staff, she appeared to be distressed. Melissa sighed deeply. What should we do? Contact the police. Let's go ourselves, Thomas said with a determined expression. We should confront this as a family. We'll keep the police as a last resort. The next day, Melissa and her parents were on a plane to Las Vegas. On board, Melissa stared out the window, thinking she had never experienced such a significant confrontation in her life. She mentally simulated her conversation with Vanessa multiple times. Should she explode in anger or handle it calmly? She must be frightened, Martha said quietly from the adjacent seat. All alone. Without Raymond. That man probably intended to use her from the beginning, Melissa responded calmly. Once he got the money, he abandoned her. It's our responsibility, Thomas said with deep remorse. We raised her to be this kind of person. Always spoiling her, never saying no, this is the result. After arriving in Las Vegas, the three headed to the Desert Rest Motel in a rental car. With its faded sign, this motel was typical of the Las Vegas suburbs that had lost their former glory. Checking at the front desk, they confirmed that Vanessa was indeed staying there. Room 211. The manager gave them a suspicious look but accepted their explanation that they were family. Martha knocked on the door with trembling hands. There was no sound for a while, but eventually a weak voice was heard from inside. Who is it? Vanessa, it's me, Martha said gently. Dad and Melissa are here too. After a long silence, the door slowly opened. The Vanessa standing there looked like a different person from the glamorous sister they knew. Her hair was disheveled, her eyes sunken, and her complexion poor. The room was a mess, with several empty wine bottles scattered about. Well, look who's here, Vanessa smiled sarcastically. A family reunion. Isn't that nice? Melissa calmly said, let's talk. They entered the room, and Vanessa sat in a chair by the window. Where's Raymond? Thomas asked. Who knows, Vanessa shrugged. Probably in Mexico or somewhere, scamming another woman. That man took everything from me. My cards, my cash. All I have left is this last one, she pointed to a credit card in Melissa's name. Why did you do this? Melissa asked quietly but firmly. Vanessa stared out the window for a while. Why? Because it was easy. You were always perfect, had everything. A good job, a stable life. I had nothing. That's not true, Melissa said. Everything I have, I earned through my own efforts. I'm what? Vanessa said provocatively. Say it. Incompetent? Lazy? No, Melissa said calmly. You were spoiled. You were never taught to take responsibility. At these words, Martha let out a small sob. She's right, Vanessa, the mother said in a stern tone for the first time. We spoiled you too much. We gave in to you too much. As a result, you turned out like this. Vanessa looked surprised. Let's end this, Thomas joined in. We won't allow you to keep running from responsibility anymore. You need to take responsibility for using Melissa and committing fraud. For the first time, Vanessa truly looked defeated. Tears welled in her eyes, and her shoulders began to shake. What should I do? First, come home, Martha said. And tell the truth about everything. To the police, to the bank. The police. The color drained from Vanessa's face. Melissa, are you really going to press charges against me? Melissa took a deep breath. She had prepared herself for this moment. That depends on you, she said. I don't hate you. But I want you to learn that actions have consequences. I don't want to go to jail, Vanessa said in a trembling voice. I don't want you to go to jail either, Melissa said quietly. But I want you to make a plan to repay all the debt. And promise never to do something like this again. I can do that, Vanessa nodded slightly. I promise. I'll pay it all back, it will take time, but I will. And one more thing, Melissa continued. I want you to get counseling. You need help. 3 days later, the family returned to Atlanta. Vanessa agreed to temporarily live with her parents. On the advice of Melissa's lawyer Jennifer, they entered into a legally binding repayment contract before a notary public. Vanessa agreed to repay all debts over 5 years, with a monthly installment plan. Vanessa also promised to attend weekly counseling sessions. I have problems, she admitted in a small voice after signing the contract. But I want to change. I really do. Melissa successfully negotiated with the bank to transfer the debt to Vanessa's name. Her credit score was slowly beginning to recover. The fraud charges with the police were put on hold, conditional on Vanessa acknowledging all responsibility and adhering to the repayment plan. Are you sure about this? Jennifer asked Melissa one day. Even if she doesn't take full legal responsibility. What I want isn't justice, but resolution, Melissa answered. She's my sister. I can't hate her. But it will take time to rebuild trust. That night, Melissa fell asleep with a genuinely peaceful feeling for the first time in a long while. Her life had changed forever, but now it felt like a new beginning. The family's problems weren't completely resolved, but at least they had started moving in the right direction. A year later, on Christmas Eve, Melissa was baking cookies in the kitchen of her new condo. The fresh scent of pineapple and orange filled the room. A gentle smile graced her face. Outside the window, snow was slowly falling, painting the Atlanta streets white. The doorbell rang, and Melissa quickly took off her oven mitts and headed to the door. Her parents and Vanessa were standing there. Everyone was holding gifts and looking at her with bright smiles. Welcome, Melissa said. She hugged each one of them and invited them inside. Many things had changed over the past year. Melissa had been promoted and purchased a new condo. Her career was progressing smoothly, and she had discovered the joy of living for herself for the first time. Vanessa had changed dramatically. After going through a rigorous rehabilitation program, she was now attending a local culinary school. I wanted to acquire actual skills and knowledge, she had said. She worked part-time at a cafe for 20 hours a week while gradually repaying her debt to Melissa. Their parents had changed too. Martha had learned the importance of treating her daughters equally, and Thomas had developed realistic expectations for Vanessa. Family gatherings became less frequent, but in return, their conversations became deeper and more sincere. "Lovely condo," Martha said, looking around the living room. "It suits you, Melissa." "Let's make a toast," Thomas suggested while opening a bottle of wine. "To new beginnings." They gathered around the dinner table, and conversation flowed easily. Laughter filled the room. When it was time for dessert, Vanessa quietly stood up. "Everyone, let me say something," she said. "This year has been the most difficult time in my life. But at the same time, it's been the year I've grown the most." She looked at Melissa. "Living honestly is easier than lying and running away. Thank you for teaching me that." Melissa smiled. "I've learned too," she said. "The importance of maintaining my boundaries. And that sometimes saying no is also a form of love." Martha joined in while wiping away tears. "We've learned a lot too. The importance of loving fairly." "Also," Thomas said, "did you see the news? Raymond was arrested. Not in Nevada, but in Texas. He's going to receive a long sentence for another fraud case." Vanessa nodded quietly. "I wish I had never met him, but I think that experience is why I am who I am today." As the night wore on, they discussed past events frankly. The pain, the regrets, the hopes. The family wasn't completely healed, but they were definitely moving toward a stronger, healthier relationship. As they were leaving, Melissa hugged Vanessa at the door. "See you next week," she said. Alone, Melissa stood by the window, looking at the snowy landscape and thought, sometimes the deepest wounds come from those closest to us. But it's through these wounds that we first come to know our true strength and self-worth. And she smiled contentedly. She felt that her life was just beginning.